Hey everybody, it's me, Bryson Booker, and it's time for another cartoon movie review just for you and you and you and you. And all of you people who love things that are sugary, spicy, and nicey. Sugary, spicy, and nicey. Now, that's something you gotta write down. I literally just came up with that on the spot, and this movie is pretty much all three. But if you know where that original phrase came from, you know that I'm an idiot and I should have came up with something better. But when we talk about sugar, spice, and everything nice, we're talking about the Powerpuff Girls. And I am talking about their first feature-length movie released by Cartoon Network Studios and Warner Brothers July 3rd, 2002. Drop the mic, I'm out of here. No, seriously, it's a pretty good movie. I've never seen this movie in a while. I have seen it plenty of times. I did not see it during its opening weekend. July 3rd, 2002, I was 3 years old. So I was 3 years old when this movie came out. I don't remember much about it. I remember some advertisements for it throughout television, and I never saw it in theaters, obviously. Maybe I saw it because we did go to the movies back then, and so maybe I saw it maybe as a billboard or something. But I really didn't see the movie myself until it aired on Cartoon Network. The first time it aired on Cartoon Network was that next year, May 2003. And then from there, Cartoon Network just kept re-airing it and re-airing it and re-airing it. I have to say, the Powerpuff Girls movie was a regular movie in rotation on the network because it was the network's movie. So it made a lot of sense of why it was in regular rotation. And for many people, it's still in regular rotation in their homes, on DVD, video, or right here on YouTube. You can check it out right here on YouTube. And I would encourage you to do that because it's a pretty good movie. In summary, I'm just going to say this. Without giving any spoilers away, it's basically the backstory of the Powerpuff Girls. How they were created, how they came to be, how they were hated, how they were loved, and how they saved the world before bedtime. That's it. I mean, I can't try to overhype this movie because it's basically, that's what it is. It's an origin story. It basically tells the origin of the Powerpuff Girls. And how they met their first villain, which was, in this movie's case, Mojo Jojo. But if you're a Cartoon Network historian, like myself, as well as just a Powerpuff Girls fan in general, you know that the first villain that the Powerpuff Girls fought wasn't actually Mojo Jojo. It was actually Fuzzy Lumpkins. From the What a Cartoon short, Meet Fuzzy Lumpkins. That was the first official appearance of the Powerpuff Girls. That's the first official villain that they fought. But if you don't want to be a big, fat, annoying nerd about it, you can say, according to this movie, the first villain, official villain, that the Powerpuff Girls fought when they were originated and when they began was Mojo Jojo. But that's if you don't want to be a big, fat nerd about it. I like being a big, fat nerd. I mean, it's cool. Knowing all this random stuff. But that's who they fight. He's the main villain, the one, the only, who tries to take over the world, and the Powerpuff Girls have to kick his butt. But they have to kind of be careful because, well, they destroyed the town, and they don't really have too many friends in the town, so they have to try to kick Mojo's butt without using their powers. Obviously, that doesn't work, so they eventually have to use their powers, and they save the day, and everybody likes them. That's really the end of the movie. And it's a pretty good movie, for a person that has grown up with the series. The series, the story is pretty obvious, because it's like, oh my god, I know this. I mean, it basically tells the origin of the girls and the theme song, for crying out loud. But keep in mind, this was released in theaters. This wasn't just a made-for-TV movie, because I think if it was, they would have did something different. Which they did do in 2008, Powerpuff Girls Rule, and 2014, Powerpuff Girls Dance Pants. And those really weren't movies, but, they were specials. And obviously they did something different for those specials because, people already knew about the series. But since this was released in theaters, they kind of had to give the backstory of them because just think about it. Not too many people probably knew the show. Well, okay, by this time, they were so huge, almost everybody knew the show. Well, let's just say if a grandmother was taking their daughters to go see this movie, the grandma has probably never heard of the Powerpuff Girls. They just know it because their kids like it, and they're just going because it gets the kids out of their hair, but they have to watch the movie too, so they have to know what it is. And, maybe that's part of the reason why they basically made this movie a backstory about the girls, because some people going to see the film probably have never heard of the series prior to this time. I mean, let's just be honest. But by this time, the series was doing so well on Cartoon Network, they were like, let's make it a movie. But turns out, it's the only official movie that Cartoon Network made. After the Powerpuff Girls movie, Cartoon Network was like, we're not going to do this anymore. Because turns out, it wasn't really the financial breakthrough that they were looking for. Granted, on opening weekend, this movie did a great job at the box office. But Cartoon Network wasn't really happy with the results, and they kind of got yelled at by Warner Brothers. So they were like, we're not doing that again. Not wasting our money to do this, even though they did a pretty decent job with this movie. But the network didn't really make another Powerpuff Girls or any other movie in their franchise at this time, as well as in the future. They never really got into the movies anymore. So they were letting Nickelodeon kick their butt in the movie area, pretty much. But this was their only feature-length movie released in theaters. Now, rumors were going around saying there was supposed to be a Johnny Bravo movie that was going to be released by Cartoon Network. And granted, it would have been great, a guy playing Johnny Bravo, but it probably would have been like this, another backstory. But it didn't happen, and there was supposed to be an Adventure Time movie by Cartoon Network, which I think they're still working on. I don't really know about the Adventure Time movie. I haven't really kept track with Cartoon Network lately. I'm just kind of a historian about the network. But they were supposed to be doing, other feature films that were talked about, but never came into fruition. So, the Powerpuff Girls movie was really their only feature film to hit theaters and do moderately well. And it does for good reason. What I like about the film, the animation is just top notch. It's basically early 2000s Cartoon Network studio style animation, when they were using the computers in all their cartoons. By 2002, shows like Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, and Powerpuff Girls were no longer done with the general cell animation style that the shows were done on in their Hanna-Barbera days. That being 1996, 97, 98, 99. By this time in 2002, they were using full-on computers, literally for everything. And Hanna-Barbera Studios kind of closed, and all their shows went to Cartoon Network Studios, and Cartoon Network Studios was using computers by this time. So you got that animation as well as some CGI elements in the film that do a pretty good job to push the film along. The CGI elements are there to aid the film. It doesn't try to over-excite the film and try to make the film something it's not supposed to be. It does not do that. The CGI is pretty smooth, and it's where it needs to be. Let's just put it like that. You'll know when something's CGI in this movie. It's pretty obvious that it's CGI. But it's not to the point where it's like so overbearing to where it's like, God, they didn't need that. It's at the right moments, and it moves very smoothly with the animation. It's pretty great. The story, obviously, backstory, but hey, it's a great backstory. Definitely a treat for the fans of the show. It was a treat for me when I was younger. And, after, coming back to it all this time, it's still a pretty fun thing to watch, even though I would probably watch the series more than I would watch this movie. But it's a great movie for what it is. It's moderately funny. You won't get a laugh out loud. You won't get something, that's so funny it'll make you fall on the floor. That's not going to happen from this movie. But it may happen from an episode like Mommy Fearest. If you don't know what I'm talking about, search up the Powerpuff Girls classic Powerpuff Girls episode, Mommy Fearless. Now, there may be a joke in there that may make you roll on the floor. But this movie in particular doesn't really do that. You don't really get a lot of laugh out loud moments, but there is a lot of action. You know, I think one of the most memorable scenes in this movie has to be when they were surfing through the town, you know, playing tag. You know, that was used to promote the movie, and it's like, it's a scene that everybody seems to remember when they talk about this movie. Don't know why, but it just is. Because it's done so well as the fighting scenes in this movie are also done pretty good. So, you know, with all that in mind, it makes sense why this movie did pretty well and why I got pretty good reviews. Because, you know, it's a pretty good movie. Animation, music, fighting scenes, voice acting, they did a pretty good job. Is it, oh my god, it's excellent? No. But for what it did, it was definitely, you know, a big step for the network itself, as well as animation lovers. You know, to see something start so small on TV and then just grow into something so huge and then they make a movie out of it. Yes, it's kind of obvious, but at this time it was like, what the heck? With this show? You know, so it was a pretty big deal. And it's still a big deal for those of you who like the classic series, like myself. So check it out. It's the Powerpuff Girls movie released in 2002 by Cartoon Network Studios. Check it out.